Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lunch with Flavor. I'm Dave McClure here with Brian Hope, and today we are talking with Baltimore City Sheriff candidates Stanley Branford and David Anthony Wiggins, as they will be engaged with questions as to what Baltimore City should expect to see from them should they be elected for Baltimore City Sheriff. Each candidate will be asked the same exact question and will be provided the opportunity to respond. At the end of each response, the opposing candidate will be provided the opportunity to question the candidate with the possibility of a question for a caller as well. We might have callers that are calling, and as this is a family-oriented broadcast, we ask that you keep your response cordial. And the first introduction will come from Mr. Stanley Branford.
Well, good afternoon, WOLB. Good afternoon, Baltimore. Thank you, Dave, for having me back here. It's a pleasure to be back here. This week is Holy Week, and before I get started, I want to make sure that I thank and give honor to God, because if it has not been for His grace and His mercy, I would not be here today. So that's first and foremost. This past Sunday, a good friend of mine passed away, Reverend Queen Gadberry. She is a member of First Mount Olive Free Will Baptist Church, so I want to extend my heartfelt condolences to her family, her church family, and her friends. I met Minister Gadberry about a week ago for about 15 minutes, and in those 15 minutes, she had a huge impact on me. Now, if she can have a huge impact on me in 15 minutes, imagine what the Branford plan can do for Baltimore and the first administration, or the first 4 years of new administration. With that being said, I think that's what my plan is about, to being able to have an impact on our community, being able to have an impact on people, and the Branford plan will do that. I have plans to make sure that we interact with our community, making sure that we extend the sheriff office beyond the courthouse and getting out and connecting with the community, making sure that our seniors are safe, creating programs for young adults and families in need, creating a cadet program, and creating a safe space for kids or young adults to be in, so we can help take care of certain issues and deal with teen violence and domestic violence. So my plan is inclusive. My plan is community-oriented. It's community engagement, building relationship with other law enforcement agency. I have the plan to do that, the Branford plan. I am experienced. I am a 28-year veteran of the Baltimore Police Department and have those connections and have that experience to do so. So I ask anybody who's want a change in Baltimore to please go to StanleyBranford.com, look at my website, look at my plan, and come June 26th, please vote Stanley Branford for Baltimore City Sheriff.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction, Mr. Branford. Now, the next introduction we will have will be from Mr. David Anthony Wiggins.
Thank you. And thank you to the listeners of WOLB. Many of you who are listening know that I'm no stranger to these airwaves, and that for the last 10 years I've been coming over the airwaves of WOLB, speaking on the absence of the sheriff and his abdication of his duty as the chief executive law enforcement officer in the city of Baltimore. Many of you might know that as the president of Baltimore Black Think Tank Incorporated, I spearheaded the movement against police brutality and to bring the Justice Department to Baltimore with people who call in like Leo Barrows, Shorty Davis. We worked together with the West family, the Anderson family, Miss Holloman, whose son Donald Maurice Johnson was murdered by the police in her own home. We worked and lobbied with the former chief clerk of the court, Frank Conaway, to write a letter on our behalf to the Justice Department, which forced Mayor Blake and Anthony Batts to accept the DOJ investigation. I've worked with Melvin Russell and Rodney Hill, who Melvin Russell was the community partnership when we had demonstrations marching through downtown, and they provided the security for our people marching through downtown, and they were orderly demonstrations against police brutality in the city. I am the only person who was interviewed by the Department of Justice whose complaints were forwarded from the civil division to the criminal division. And Earl Saunders and Puneet Chima in front of Kim Trueheart, Leo Barrows, Patrick Henderson, all people who come over these airwaves, promised us at the Baltimore Black Think Tank that we would have a position in the monitoring of the Baltimore police and their culture of corruption. But that didn't transpire because of a new mayor and whatever. But I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Baltimore. I'm a member of Ironworkers Local 16, a member of Rodman's Local 201, which is now Rodman's Local 5 or Ironworkers 5 in D.C. And one of the things that Mr. Guido was talking about as far as the unions is the undocumented laborers who are working on state and federal funded contracts who should not be working, who are putting veterans out of work, who are putting American citizens out of work. And it is the duty of the sheriff to stop that in Baltimore. We can stop these things if we had a sheriff who was present. So many of you know who I am if you call in and ask me questions. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I've worked as a paralegal, legal analyst for the Department of Assessments and Taxation. I had a gubernatorial appointment there. I worked in the Office of the Public Defender, so I'm not a stranger to litigation and law. I understand it. When I was in the Army, I was a combat engineer and an infantryman with the 1st Infantry Division and 299th Engineer Battalion. And when I got tired of that, I wanted something else that I could come out and do. So I became a paralegal while I was in the Army. And that made me familiar with the law and the Constitution, which isn't being enforced. And it is the sheriff's job to enforce not just the Maryland Declaration of Rights, but the Baltimore City Charter. And as sheriff, I intend to hold public officials accountable for their malfeasance, negligence, and criminality in office.